Hello friends and welcome to the YouTube channel of TVL Education Private Limited, where we help you upskill yourself every day by adding a little bit of value. I'm Xavier Menezes from Mumbai, and today we're going to be talking about the 4 quotients. Now, this is a very tough time for a lot of people. Thanks to COVID-19, a lot of people are stressed out. A lot of people are questioning the state of the world. And in that case, we're releasing a video that helps you know a little bit more about yourself, that helps you understand yourself a little bit better, so that when the pandemic ends, you'll be able to go out into the world a little more confident and a little more sure about yourself. And in that case, we're going to tell you about the 4 quotients that make up a person's personality. Each of these quotients refers to a different type of intelligence, a different type of emotional sensitivity. And these 4 quotients are vital to the structure of our mind. Psychologists have divided the human mind into these 4 quotients precisely to give us a good idea about the different types of intelligence. Not just intelligence as a simple matter of getting good grades on tests as we normally think about it. So in this video, we're going to talk about how the 4 quotients are all equally valuable and are all equally interdependent, especially in times like these. The first kind of quotient is the intellectual quotient. It is perhaps the most famous type. All of you know what intellectual quotients are. All of you know what IQ means. A lot of you probably use IQ in your daily conversation. When you're insulting someone, you probably say you have a very low IQ. We've gotten so used to correlating the idea of IQ with intelligence that we never realize that IQ, just like everything else, is just a test. And yes, we have this culture, particularly in a country like India, when we say that if you get low marks on a test, if a teacher doesn't give you good grades, if you only got 15 on 20 or 10 on 20, then you're dumb. But there is no proof that these tests, that these numerical values are good measurements of our intelligence. A lot of people who have supposedly low IQ are much more famous and much more accomplished in their fields than a lot of people who have high IQ. And it's not just that. A lot of parents take their kids to do IQ testing at the age of 5 and 6. They find that their kid has an incredibly high IQ. They praise their kid to the high heavens, and then it turns out that the children aren't able to perform well anyway. Because their parents give them such an inflated idea of their own capabilities that their children never really realize the value of hard work. They never realize the value of talking to people. They think of themselves as geniuses. They don't interact with other people. They look down on other people, and all because a little number on a little test told them that they could be special. A lot of these high IQ people feel extremely isolated. They feel like they can't understand other people, like they can't talk to other people, like they can't hold a regular conversation. And without parents teaching those kids how to behave properly in society, how to exercise empathy, and how to act like regular human beings, that high IQ, even if it is legitimate, will only end up isolating their children. You might be intelligent, but you'll be completely isolated. And if there is no one around to appreciate your intelligence, if there is no motivation to exercise your intelligence, then how are you different from any random person in the crowd? A lot of people who have high IQs, who had high records on IQ tests when they were kids, are currently working as waiters. They're completely socially isolated. They work day jobs. And a lot of people who are supposedly dumber than them, who can't solve complex math equations or solve logical problems, are CEOs who sit in corporate offices and employ these people. So there is no hard and fast rule saying that pure intelligence, even if it exists, is a key to success. High IQ is not always a blessing, and if you don't train someone with high IQ to exercise all the other emotional factors, then high IQ could even become a curse because you'll be overdeveloped in one area and underdeveloped in all the others. It will be like being able to run very fast but having extremely weak legs. So even if you try running at full speed, all you'll end up doing is injuring yourself. And you shouldn't be like that. You should develop yourself across the board to create a composite personality. The second type of quotient is called emotional quotient. This is not as well known, but it's the second most important quotient after IQ. If IQ measures your ability to solve logical problems and to come to logical conclusions, emotional quotient measures your ability to connect with people, to interact with people, and to feel empathy. And a lot of us at various times in life have had to contend with various emotions, right? Some people feel like they can't feel any kind of emotions, like they can't get excited, like they can't connect with someone. Have you ever been to a party and listened to someone talking about your achievements and felt like you couldn't be happy for them? Or have you ever watched a news report about people suffering a tragedy and felt like you couldn't be sad for them? These might be signs that you have a low emotional quotient. Emotional quotient is all about experiencing empathy, about understanding the emotions that other people feel and responding to them. Emotional quotients are not always logical because you can't take actual emotions and write them down as some kind of logical values. There are lots of things that can't be put into logic or translated into logic. A lot of things that can't be turned into computer programs. The feeling of acing a test for the first time in your life, or looking at a beautiful scenery, or of having a kid, or of falling in love. These are emotional quotients, and there are scientific explanations for all of them. For instance, you could argue that falling in love is merely a biological mechanism to boost reproduction. However, explaining it that way would not help you understand the feeling of falling in love. And even if you can't fall in love personally, if you constantly go around telling this to other people, then you're probably not going to be very popular. You'll be asked to read the mood to understand what people are feeling. And if you can't do that, you can't get ahead in society. If you look at the picture on the left, it will show you how important EQ is. 58% of your job performance is done as a result of EQ, and the other percentage will probably be because of the quotient that we will address next, the social quotient. IQ is important in your job, make no mistake about it. But in the vast majority of jobs in the world, you don't need to reinvent the wheel or be a genius. You need to work alongside a team to reach common goals. And for that, EQ and SQ is much more important than IQ can ever be. You can live through life without coming up with a single original idea and be perfectly happy, because if those original ideas have no one to appreciate them, then there's no point to their existence. You would just be sitting in a room and thinking for the sake of thinking. Emotional intelligence is extremely important for succeeding in society and for connecting with people. You'll need that to make a lot of money, to connect with people, and to just in general enjoy your life without any rewards, without any monetary incentives. So connect your heart and your mind and understand that both of them are interdependent. Our third type of quotient is the social quotient. The social quotient is closely linked to the emotional quotient but is subtly different. While your emotional quotient is about your ability to feel empathy, your social quotient regards your ability to understand social norms, understand social cues, and execute them properly. If you've ever been to a party, you know that there are certain people who become the life of the party, who stand at the center of the party. There are lots and lots of people surrounding them, and they can interact with every single one of those people without a single problem. Even if they don't know how to talk to people, even if they have no information about your background, they can ask the exact type of questions that would allow them to know more about you without it feeling like an interview. Social quotients are important because they allow you to interact with strangers. They allow you to simultaneously work alongside a large amount of people. This is extremely important in your corporate and job environments because you'll be acting with so many people, you'll be cooperating with so many people. You can't take the time to sit down across a branch manager and talk to them for 5 or 6 days and understand their entire life story. You need to be able to get along with them from the get go. You need to underline common goals, understand their modus operandi, understand their likes and dislikes, and all of this without exchanging a single word. You need to be intuitive and you need to be perceptive, and this is a big part of developing your social quotient. Now on the left, you can see a checklist of things that involve a good social quotient. For instance, listening to people who are talking, or starting a conversation about any topic even if you don't know much about it, about asking the right questions, and about saying thank you. A big part of expressing the social quotient is about expressing your feelings. Even if you have a high social quotient, the person on the other end might not. So you need to get your emotions across to them. You need to introduce yourself. You need to know your self image. You need to understand how you can give compliments and how to frankly put across criticism. You need to understand tact and you need to understand conventions. There are certain things that you do in certain situations. For instance, it would not be socially appropriate to crack a joke at someone's funeral, even if you're trying to make everyone else feel happy and upbeat. Because that is an example of something that you just do not do. At the same time, if one of your coworkers is depressed and you don't want to horn in on their life or make any comments, but at the same time you realize that they need help, a good social quotient will allow you to put those arguments across well and help them without seeming as intrusive. So a good social quotient can completely change your dynamic with someone else and make you the center of the party no matter where you go. It will help you interact with a lot of people, not robotically or mechanically, but in a way that allows you to bring out the best in people regardless of where you are and to earn their adulation and support. And the last type of quotient is called the adversity quotient. This is something that has come up relatively recently, but it is also very important. Now, if you've been paying attention to the news, you've been noticing that things are very dark these days. There are a lot of problems in society, and a lot of people are starting to lose their will to live. Their daily routines are being disrupted. They have no sense of normalcy, no sense of routines, and as a result, they succumb to something that is known as anomie, which is a sense of chaos that comes when society isn't regimented or controlled. It feels as if the world has turned upside down, and so they can't properly focus on doing anything. Now, as a result of this, they feel extremely depressed and extremely vulnerable and extremely lonely. Even if they're living in the center of families, they feel completely isolated and cut off. Adversity quotient, it determines your ability to power through these circumstances, to understand that bad things are just a phase and to move through. If you've paid attention to the news, you'll notice that a lot of celebrities have committed suicide, and not just recently, but in multiple times across the world. A lot of very famous celebrities have not been able to cope with fame. They've not been able to cope with adversity. And a result of this is that perhaps they were told that they were talented from day one and never realized how it would feel to have their talent spat on and looked down at. They never realized how it would feel to have a bad day, just like a normal person. There are lots of people out there with weak adversity quotients because society constantly tells us to be upbeat and do our best, but it doesn't tell us how to deal with our emotions. Adversity quotient isn't just about walking through trouble or ignoring your pain. It is about dealing with your pain. It is about accepting that your pain exists, but it is also about knowing that that pain is not the end of the world. Adversity quotient determines your ability to cope with horrible circumstances, to cope with bad things, not by shutting yourself off to them, not by shielding yourself from them, but by understanding that these things are problematic and moving on regardless. People who have a high adversity quotient will be able to understand negative feelings right when they manifest. They'll be able to sit down with their family members and talk to them about their problems. They'll be able to call a therapist and they'll be able to convince themselves that a lot of negative urges that they feel are not final. Adversity quotient is not about being invulnerable to negative feelings because negative feelings are a huge part of self improvement. You can only feel better if you feel bad about something and if you want to improve. What your adversity quotient's real value is that it will help you understand that your negative feelings have limits and it will help you make the best of those negative feelings without completely being washed away by them. And this is a very important skill to have, especially in situations like the COVID-19 crisis, but also in almost every avenue of your life because your life will almost never be perfect and you need to accept that and find out the best way to cope with it. Developing all these four quotients will allow you to become a composite human being who is successful in every stage of life, no matter what happens. That is all for this video. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. If you have any doubts or inquiries, don't forget to spell them out in the comment section and we will address them. Remember, friends, that TVR Education wants to help innovators across the world fulfill their dreams. Thank you very much.